Hey, I'm Jeff the Junk Seller, and this presentation is going to be about the Texas Hill Country. I finally made it down here to on a exploratory mission to try to find a market where I could sell some of my higher value stuff. I hear that there's a lot of money down there, and I'm going to tell you, I've made it down there, and there is. Um, on Thursday and Friday, I made it down to uh, down there, and I visited Kyle. They have a flea market there. That's a Sunday only market. It's I think it's generally Latino. They had some shops in there. I visited that on Saturday, and it's not going to be a place where high value stuff is going to be able to be sold. It was I saw a lot of sports cards, and I saw a lot of Pokemon cards, and I think that it's generally a peasant market, and I won't be doing that one. I mean, I may come down and set up just so that I'm able to shop, because I believe that there's probably some good shopping there. But Thursday and Friday I stayed at Bastrop State Park. It was awfully noisy there. I wasn't able to film a video there without going in. I had to go in at the park about 3 miles just to be able to away from the campsites, just to be able to get away from the highway noise. And then on Saturday and Sunday, the 14th and the 15th, I stayed at Guadalupe State Park, which is absolutely beautiful, but had difficulty getting a signal there too. But I drove through Wimberley, Fredericksburg, Kyle, and Bastrop the first day that I was there. And then I shopped Smithville on Friday, spent a little bit of money there. I hit a shop in Blanco, spent a little money there. And then in Smithville, I think that's where I bought a bottle. I bought a barback bottle. Then I made it to a thrift shop. I can't even remember the name of the place, but it's a Friday only sale. I'll have it in the video here. But I saw a piece of Francoma. It was a little trinket box from the Franks, Christmas 1958, and they had it priced at $20, and I think I found it online for $59 was the lowest price that I was able to find it. But I went back to get it, and the lines were just incredibly long. I wasn't willing to wait in the line to get it. But I shopped in a estate sale in Wimberley. I think that was on Friday, and I bought a little there. That was it's actually a pretty famous place. The guy ran a model railroad there. If I'm able to find anything about it, that will be in the. I'll present that in an image too. But I made it to that flea market on Saturday and at Kyle, and it's the fee is only $10 on Saturday, and it's $35 on Sunday. But then I got down to a place called, I think it's Bussey's, Bussseys flea market after that. And it's also a Sunday market. And I talked to a guy there. I paid $2 for parking. I bought a 14-karat gold-filled ladies' watch for $4 and a silver-plated jam spoon for $3. But I got some good information from a guy there, and he told me about the Fredericksburg market, the Wimberley market. He gave me the lowdown on a couple of places, and talking about Bussey's, he said, this can be a pretty good market. You can come here and set up on a Sunday and do $300 or $400. And I was like, that's not what he came down here for. A lot of the stuff that I'm trying to sell might be $300 or $400 or even more. I was looking for a flea market more akin to the Golden Token in Lambertville, New Jersey, where you have people that are coming to buy in some real stuff. But anyway, that guy helped me with his information, and then I found another guy that pretty much confirmed what he told me there. And he told me about Wimberley. Wimberley is a flea market where the Lions Club owns some property there, and they hold like 10 spaces in reserve. All the other spaces are rented out by the year, and people have built little huts and out there and put roofs up and this kind of crazy stuff. But he said that those 10 that they have available, he said they're rented so fast that you really need to know somebody in the Lions Club to even be able to get a spot out there. He said that he was able to vend there before, and that it's a really good market. And I drove through there. They're attracting a lot of really affluent people. A lot of millionaires are moving into the Wimberley area. A lot of entertainers. I found an article where they say that Paul Simon lives there, but Hill Country is got a lot of that. I made it when I made it through Fredericksburg. Every mile that you drive down the road, there will be 20 wineries on one side and 20 wineries on the other side. And you get into town and it's just boutique after boutique, candles and candy and food and more food and more food. And, and I heard about the market there at Fredericksburg. It's a farm that they run in their barns. They've got some covered spaces out there. It's a huge deal. But these guys told me that at two separate occasions, two different guys told me the same information, and they said that when you get out there, when you first arrive, when you're a new guy there, that they're going to put you in the back, and you're not going to be able to get paying traffic. There's not very good traffic back there. And both of them said that they lost money. One guy even was willing to try it again. He was a bit stubborn like me. He heard the hype, and he was like, "Oh, that last performance couldn't have been real." So he tried it again, and he said that he lost money then too. But so Fredericksburg and Wimberley were out, and I was getting a bit desperate about what I was going to do. I came down here. I spent a little bit of money. I spent about $500 or $600 down there in the Hill Country, just running around eating and spend it on fuel. Everything is 40 or 50 miles away, and I had to see a lot of different places, and I had to see them on multiple occasions. And so I was figuring that that this might be a wash, and there's still some other markets down there. I heard that Blanco has got a market that is like a monthly market that they do. I didn't find anything out about that. I'll be back later to see that. I also heard that Bryan out by College Station has a market that is a monthly market, and I haven't found out about that either. But there's a handful of other markets. I remember hearing about them, but I didn't mark them down, and I don't remember what they are right now. But I wanted to go check Kerrville, because Kerrville was the third of the big ones that I knew about. It was Kerrville, Fredericksburg, and Wimberley that I really came to have a look at. So I wind up in a mall at in Kerrville. I won't give the name yet because I am applying to get a space there, and I don't want to jinx that. But I have to submit the stuff that I'll be selling there, and you're allowed in by committee. They have a committee that deems whether or not your stuff is good enough, whether they want you there or whatever. But I'm gonna apply to this mall. I walked through the mall, and I had seen some people there. They were bringing stuff to the counter. They had like $1,200 in purchases, and a couple of a day before or so, I went out to see Bernie. They have a market out there that's monthly, and that was going on. I checked that out on Saturday. The guy at Bussey's told me about it. He said that it was going on right now. So I went out there, and it's put on the town square. They got 4 rows of tents. I don't remember the price. I think it's something like $175 for a 10 by 10 space. Very restricted spaces. But I go there. I want to have a look at it, and I drive out there, and parking is a nightmare. I can't find a parking space anywhere. But I'm able to drive the little U-shaped drive that takes me around the market, and I get to see two of the 4 rows of tents, and I won't be a good fit there. They were selling plush animals. They some of it looked like it was Chinese container shipment stuff. It wasn't really an antiques and collectibles market. People are paying good money to set up there, but I just don't think that I would fit in there, and it looked like it was going to be a nightmare. So I make it out to Kerrville, and I get in this shop. Oh well, when I was in Bernie, excuse me, I got to back up a minute. When I was in Bernie, I went to a mall. It was out on what they call John's Road Antique Mall, and I was in there. They have the swans that are made out of the blown glass, the thrown glass. I can't. I bought a whole bunch of them because a girl that was set up next to me at Buffalo Gap, not Buffalo Gap, but at Warrenton, was selling those and selling them pretty well, and she advised me that those were collectible again. So I started buying a whole bunch of them. I haven't been able to sell one for $20 or $24 to save my life. I think I got 8 or 9 of them, and but I go into this antique mall, this Johns Road antique mall there in Bernie, and they have those priced to $89. Everything in there seemed way overpriced to me, based off of the prices that I can get for stuff. But the thing that was so amazing about it is that there were people that were keeping the cashiers busy. They had 2 cashiers, and they were it was kind of hectic for them, wrapping and packing and collecting money and everything. And it wasn't a very big mall. And it's not the kind of place that I could get a booth, because you could just tell that there were probably all of the spaces in there were probably held down by only 4 or 5 different vendors. It's more of a co-op than it is a boothers market. And but I got to I got to thinking, because I saw them collecting this crazy money on this stuff. And then I made it to another mall in Comfort, Texas, which was absolutely fascinating. The prices that they were getting for stuff there was pretty impressive too. It's kind of a mid-level mall. And then I get to this one in Kerrville, and I watch these people. They just keep taking stuff to the counter. They had a Frankoma mug that I think they got $34 for, and it was the kind of mug that I can't sell for $5 or $10. I might be able to sell it for $5. If you put 8 or 10 on it, you're gonna have to wait until I don't know when. It's just best to sell it for $5 at the markets that I go to. And they're getting $34, something like that. But anyway, I watch them selling this stuff, and I'd been upstairs, and I saw these. They had a few spaces upstairs available, 10 by 10 spaces. And I asked the girl that's the manager there what they're getting on a space, and she told me $175 for a 10 by 10 upstairs. And at that point, I really started thinking about getting a space in a mall. This is something that I've always thought about, but or I've thought about for quite a while. But most malls, I worry that most of the places you're just paying booth rent. I've been in those situations before years ago, and they seem that like there's a bunch of hazard to it. But I get to thinking about this, and I tell her that I have to look into getting some locked display cases. And she said, well, we might be able to help with that. And she explained to me that they have a couple of them that were in the shop that they use them to present the store's inventory. And there were 2 of them, but they were rentable. And they're about 4 feet by 6 feet by 16 inches deep. It's not a whole lot of space. it's $175. And that's a bit of a scary commitment, except that I have a lot of really good high value inventory that I think would do well there. And I think that I'm going to give it a run. The past couple of days I've been trying to figure out, I need to make some display material for presenting postcards and cabinet cards and that kind of thing. I'm going to put a lot of book inventory in there. Some of this book inventory I've been lugging around for 8 years. Now, when I get everything together, everything that I'm going to put in the booth, I'm going to make a video to provide to the shop manager so that she can take it to committee so that they can see the stuff that I'm going to be presenting for sale there. And I'll make I will use that as a presentation on my YouTube channel as well, after the fact. But I think that with that, things have changed. I ended up once I decided that I was going to do that, I was like, all right, well, next weekend I have to sell at a market. And I left from down there, and it was about 180 miles for me to get to Buffalo Gap. And I came back up here. I've got a whole load of cast iron, some low-end stuff. I've got some people contacting me about furniture that I've got on Facebook Marketplace, and I've got to get those cast iron columns down to a friend of mine in Round Top. Round Top's fixing to happen in a couple of weeks. I've got some things that I got to get sorted out, and I need to make these displays for my cabinet at this mall. I'm already acting like I'm getting in, and I'm already feeling the pressure of going and finding more high quality stuff. I've got a couple of friends that I know are setting on some things that they don't have market approaches for, and I'm going to try to get those things out of them and try to offer them in this display. And I've got some silver that I was going to scrap because the markets that I go to, I can't get any money for it. But the place, this place that I'm looking at down in Kerrville, I think that I would be able to sell it there. And one of the fascinating things that I like about this place is Kerrville's they got a little over 20,000 people in their population. And of that, over 1,200 people are millionaires. They have over 6% of their population in Kerrville is a millionaire. And that is the second highest per capita millionaires in any town in the state of Texas. And when you drive through Kerrville, it feels a lot bigger than a city of only 20,000 people. I've lived in small towns, 60,000, 55,000 people. This place has a convention center. They've got a parking garage that's like a couple of stories tall. And I went and started doing some research, and they have, it is a convention town. They have conventions from all over the country, all over the world that come there. And when you're in a small town that's remote at a convention, when you're not in the convention, I think that there's not much for you to do. You can get out and see the sights. The place is beautiful down there. I mean, the natural beauty of the area is not to be taken for granted, but I think a lot of people will end up shopping the antique shops. And I have some great Michigan material. I have some great material that belongs into France. I've got some German stuff. There's a lot of Germans out in the area. I think that it's going to be a good fit. I hope that they let me in. And that was the end of me doing my little exploratory mission down there. And I went and I looked at the Wimberley flea market. I drove out to the site where they have it, and I was really, really underwhelmed about it. And not saying that it's a bad market. I know a guy that sells vinyl, Kermit, and he's told me that he does really, really well at Kerrville. He's it's his recommendation is part of what drove me out there to look at Kerrville. But I just don't think that right now my head is full of all kinds of ideas about getting into this booth, and I think that it's probably the right move. I have like the Harding black pottery. I have the leftover Netskis. I've got Texas Republic paper money and bonds. I've got some paroles for Confederate soldiers from Texas. I the places that I go, I can't sell that kind of stuff. And I have the Chester Nimitz letter, which really belongs in Fredericksburg. Nimitz is from he was born in Fredericksburg, and they have the Pacific War Museum there, and it's they also call it the Chester Nimitz Museum. So that letter, I'll even put a couple of extra $100 on that, being that I'm getting it to where it belongs. And I saw a lot of Native American jewelry, and the stuff that I've been trying to sell. I can raise prices on all of that. It's and I think that this is I think I'm in a pretty good position to fill that case. I'm going to be heavily weighted in books when I first set up there, but I have some great books that I bought at Michigan State University, the first annual surplus book sale. And I've got stuff that comes out of special collections. I've got a lot of really crazy good books. I think that I think that this display case, I think that I can put between $30,000 and $35,000 in this single case on the 5 shelves that I have in this single case. But that's all I've got to say for this. Plans change. I was really stuck on selling at Fredericksburg and Wimberley and Kerrville, all these flea markets. And I got down there and I just found out that it was not going to be a good fit. And, while I was disappointed about that, I found this other thing, which I think is really, really going to be the much better option. I think that it's what I came down here to try to find out. And, the thing that I like about having a booth is you're not dependent on the weather. And while this booth is opened, the mall is open 6 days a week, only closed on Sundays. So I've got a lot more market exposure on the good stuff, and I don't know where else I'd sell a $450 piece of pottery or a $300 Batosi piece of pottery. I think that this is an experiment worth trying. But if you've enjoyed this presentation, then please view some of my other material, and if you like that as well, then please subscribe. But thank you for viewing.